The offense here has dried up quite a bit, and it's gotten a top heavy again. How big a concern is that for you? And do you think you have enough in-house to break through this?
Well, not at the current rate that we're going. Clearly we've played well defensively in the last 5 games or such. We just haven't generated or finished, I should say. Arguably 5-on-5 is just, it's not where it needs to be to consistently win or to extend leads if you do get them. So, it's a concern across the board, not so much about the top heavy part of it, just overall. I think that, injuries have played a little bit of a factor there on the back end, but we've also, as I said, not given up that much. Goaltenders have played pretty well. So, I think it's a major concern for us.
Yeah. In any update on Kasha? He was a big part of your plans this year, and you haven't had him all year pretty much. I see he's kind of ramping up his skating. Can you count on him at all the rest of the way, or where do you stand with him?
Well, until he's back, he might have drawn it up that Ritchie and Nebraska and Kasha would have played some time together, and at this stage probably would have had more than if we had speculated, more than 0 even strength goals amongst the 3 of them. So it's a problem in terms of throughout your lineup. And as far as Andre, he's back on the ice, but there's 0 timetables for when he returns. It's as it's just whatever medically allows him to continue to progress, he'll do so, and he's eager to play. But sometimes things just take their own natural courses to get past where he needs to.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Udo Shinzawa.
Hi, Don. I have 2 questions. First, regarding the trade deadline, it's such a one-off this year because of the quarantine, the expansion draft coming up, your limited viewings on 2021 picks. So, given all those factors, how do you see the trade deadline when it comes to improving your team?
I think it's unique, as you described. I think everybody's going to evaluate, where their team is at for the next, really 2 weeks. You could be above the line and below the line pretty quickly, and injuries have certainly taken their toll, the compression of the schedule. So I think there's a lot of variables in play. You referenced, probably the 3 most important ones, and but your team usually dictates, what you should try and do, and ours will probably do as well as indicate from what direction we'd like. We certainly have areas that we would like to explore to add, but it's been challenging. I think things will loosen up because there'll be some teams that will identify themselves as not necessarily in the position they want to be, and some player movement will happen. But moving across the border is a difficult thing with quarantine, and but I think the healthier group is sometimes dictating how many player transactions will be there. Money is tight. You had 18 teams in LTI, and so it's really navigating the unknown right now, but plenty of talks and conversations going on. So we'll see where it goes over the next couple of weeks.
Okay. And then also, Bruce had mentioned that there's been different messaging with Jake, or whether it's meetings or ice time and now healthy scratch. So from your perspective, how would you like Jake to interpret the latest of not playing against the first place team?
Well, I think Jake takes all of it to heart, as all players do. When you lose ice time, I think that's the greatest lever to pull with a player at the National Hockey League level, whether that's within game or actually missing games. And you look for responses from really any area. If you've addressed it through video and coaching, through practice, through ice time, and hit the reset. Clearly we understand that Jake's, not where he needs to be. He recognizes that, takes ownership of it, and we have to do everything we possibly can to put him in a situation that he can work his way out of it, and work is a big part of that.
Kevin Paul DuPont.
A couple, if I could, Don. The first one being, can you give us whatever sort of timeline on the 3 injured defensemen? What are your best hopes there, and for Lauzon and Miller et al.?
Well, again, fractures are what they are. He had surgery to hopefully help the healing process. If Dr. Liebman did the job that he generally does, it'll help Losey, who's back on the ice, to continue to keep his legs. It's just a matter of the healing process. It was always a 4 to 6 timeline, and we'll reevaluate that in 4 weeks, and hopefully he's on the shorter side of that. But time will tell. Kevin's back on the ice and working his way back. Had a setback from a volume standpoint, and which we probably expected at some point in time during the course of the season with the layoff he's had. But he's making some strides, and Brandon, again, there's no timeline there. It feels better. But he's not back on the ice, and until that happens, we won't have any indication of what direction he's headed until he's healthy and further along.
Okay, and just trying to keep track here, different leagues and seasons in Europe and the rest of it. Have you got, in terms of looking for help here, be it from juniors or college or Europe? Is there anybody who sort of can get into this mix here?
Periodically there's some college players that will come out and enter people's lineups, but no, I would say that's not likely to happen. For us, we'll still be in that game, but as far as helping our current roster, I mean, there's always a couple of college kids, as I referenced. I don't suspect that from Europe or certainly at junior level for us. We've got Robbins, who's playing again this afternoon, and some guys that have played well. That if we have to shake things up, I think we will do that. And I understand what the expectations haven't changed. Our group has played well, but not quite good enough, and the scoring has been the Achilles heel up until this point. And hopefully we can find it from within, or I'm going to have to make a move to bring in support.
Thank you,
Joe Haggerty.
Hey, Swains, thanks for doing this. I got a couple questions for you. First, let's go with the positive. How pleased have you been with Nick Ritchie and his assimilation now that he's kind of gone through a full camp, gone through the whole thing with his production, just the way that he's played, and how happy have you been with the development of Trent Frederic in his first year and the impact that he's brought from a physical end, from kind of being assertive and making things happen out there?
Well, I think both players were part of a little bit of a directional shift in focus for us to be a little heavier along the walls to hopefully get to the interior ice. That we also identified, things that teams do well. They pack the house. Look at the team last night, similar to ours. They don't give up a lot. Their D respect the dots, trying to keep you outside. Goaltenders make the saves they're obviously supposed to make, and requires players that are willing to go in there. You see it in all shapes and sizes around the leagues that players are willing and capable of doing it. We need a little more of it. I think Trent is sort of finding his stride offensively in the last little while. Getting to having a shot mentality, took a puck off of Smitty last night, who was loaded and ripped one off a shoulder and almost scored. But you saw him shoot his first one in Tahoe and then get a tip. And one of the games previously, he would have drifted behind the net. In the Washington game, he stopped in front and got to a perfect spot to be able to tip a puck. And that's the evolution and understanding of the player. And our coaches have been working with him, and Freddie's been receptive to that. From a standpoint of the injection piece of his physicality and willingness, I think that's as advertised. He's obviously trying to find the pockets of the game where he can bring that to the table without crossing the line and putting himself or the team at jeopardy. And he's done a nice job of that. And hopefully it continues to move along. And, as far as Nick, he's gotten more comfortable in understanding what his role is and what the expectations are. He worked hard this summer to get himself in the level of conditioning that we're required to play, or the way Bruce likes to play and our team plays. And he's done a good job, power play, net front, complementing that group there. And hopefully it continues. We need a little more production in a post last night. Hopefully he continues to add what we had hoped when we acquired him.
From an offensive standpoint, how much of this was anticipated or expected going into the year, that there might be some struggles and you may need to augment via trade or something from the outside? And how much of this comes as a surprise, just to see some of the pockets of struggles you've seen to score?
We obviously had a focus in implementing some of the younger defense and how that would look, and I think we're a little more mobile, or had been when all the guys were healthy, and our transition game looked a little bit better, and maybe we were getting some looks as a result of that. I think we're asking a lot of our guys right now defensively to do what we're supposed to do, continue to move pucks. You're seeing Charlie get a little more involved. Grizz, was reluctant in the first period, but got better in the second and third about looking to have a shot mentality. Jacob's just cutting his teeth. The offensive blue line, he's made good, clean exits, and now hopefully the next step, but he's 25 games in. So I think overall, they have to go hand in hand. I mean, your team doesn't function if you don't come out of your own end clean and get through the neutral zone. Our rush chances have been pretty good. I think the ownership's a little bit with our forward group to get to the interior ice. We haven't tipped a lot of pucks home. We need to do a better job there, and that's also in conjunction with the D-men at the offensive blue line. Find the ability to change the lane and get it through the first layer. I mean, as I said earlier, teams pack the house. It's tough to get shots through, but you watch the highlights around the league, and some of the defense have had the ability to sift it in there and find holes or tip them in, and our group has to do a better job in the same regard. If we're going to be the team we're capable of being. As far as expected wise, as I said, I wouldn't have expected the three guys I mentioned earlier to be at 0 even strength goals, but that's just where we are. We have to do a better job without sacrificing what I think the identity of our teams has always been, to be a hard team to play against defensively, and our goaltending is solid.
Thanks, Wayne.
Yep.
Joe McDonald.
Hey, Donnie, it's been basically just a year since all this craziness kind of began. And I'm wondering from your standpoint, what's it been like to manage a team from last March until right now?
I can't believe it's only been a year, because it feels like dog years of about 7 to 10 for all of us. And, you can imagine how the healthcare workers and the first responders and people that are on the front lines of this whole pandemic have been. So, when you think about operating within our league, we're fortunate to be operating, and that's a testament to the players, the owners, and the industry itself. So, when you think about what was me and complaining, then you should just look around and realize what the entire world is up against, and the fact that we're able to function and still travel around and play, and players have the ability to play the sport they love at the business level, and hopefully we're going to come out of this more successful at some point in time. It's going to take a while to climb back up, Joe. But it's been challenging. I think the fatigue in the road and not being able to do what you normally would do, and even now coming home with the added protocols of really trying to adhere to a very, very tight circle, it's difficult, and it's difficult for everybody. So I'm not going to put the National Hockey League, our players, above the priorities of any other individual in North America or around the world, because I think we're all sacrificing and realizing that this has been an incredible struggle. And we're fortunate. That's the bottom line. You just have to look in the mirror and be fortunate that, for everybody's health and safety and to be able to play.
Have you thought that based on everything that you just said, it has affected the team, maybe production, chemistry a little bit because of all that stuff?
Well,
or
I
has
think,
it helped?
Yeah, Joe, to be honest with you, I think our team does a good job of not putting excuses out there. They're variables. There's no question they're variables. But I think that, we take ownership, or I'd like to think we take ownership, when we fall short of what our goals and expectations are. And but we try to address them openly. The guys have resources and tools that they can, utilize. And hopefully we try to operate and function as a family and support each other in that regard. And, the expectations, haven't changed. Regardless of what the environment that we're trying to operate in, and it is significantly different. Tampa found a way to persevere through all the things you've described, and there's going to be a winner this year. And you're going to have to meet those challenges and realize it, and the sacrifices that come along with it. But it doesn't mean the expectations change. But it is difficult.
Thanks, Donnie.
Thanks, Joe.
Dan Roach.
Don, just a quick follow-up on what Joe Mack was saying. Do you recall when it happened and what was all happening, what your thoughts were about what was going on with the coronavirus, and when did it kind of wake you up that, okay, this is very serious, but also over the course of the year, how has it affected you personally, maybe so that you've grown and can be a better person, better at your job as you've gone about your business?
Well, we were down at the general manager's meeting, and I think we had a pretty clear indication that this was not likely to be suppressed, and it was only going to grow around that time, and it shut down very, very quickly after that. Everybody had their fingers crossed and didn't necessarily know what the impacts would be as widespread it would be, and obviously the fatalities associated with it. I think we're all understanding, and really how dire the situation has been. Personally, Dan, again, my family's healthy. My parents travel back home to New Brunswick. Your inner circles that you certainly go to and understand that several people and people that and family members that they've lost their lives, and it just, the perspective has just shifted for all of us. And yet you're trying to operate as you normally and function as you normally are supposed to. But it's a challenge, communication with your own family and some of the things you just took for granted have been taken away, and you got to earn those back. And I think that's part of it. I just don't think you should expect it to come back. I think you have to earn back, what we used to have is what we would describe as normal, and what the new normal is going to be is not going to just have a complete reset. And I think it's important to have that respect for each other as individuals, and hopefully we do come through this, much stronger as individuals and collectively.
And being at the Garden, Don, what will it mean to you when eventually fans, they are coming back sooner, but when that whole place is packed again? I mean, we've all seen it. You've been in that building. You can all feel how different it is. What's that going to be like for you and the organization when there's 17-5, 6-5 again for cheering on your hockey team?
Well, we're going to be fortunate, later on this month to have even a few fans back to allow us to acknowledge them and how much we've missed them and how important they are to how we function as an organization and what we feed off of. I was just describing, we were in New York and they had a few fans in there, and it just was, so much more refreshing than piped in noise. And again, the league has done a good job to try and create an environment that replicates what would be normal for players, but it's not normal. The players, thrive off of it. As a former player, you understood what coming in your own building and the motivation and really the uptick you receive when you're coming to play a home game. And now it's, you can be in different buildings. The color schemes are a little different in each building, but it's muted. So when we get a chance to have our fans back, I'm hoping we're playing our best hockey so that we can acknowledge how important they are for us.
Last question, Kevin Paul DuPont.
There we go. We open here?
Yep, we got you.
Don, we haven't heard this could take up 5 Zoom sessions, I realize, but we haven't got your thoughts on the Wilson hit, the suspension, whether you thought it was fair. My underlying question is always, why does the league put up with nitwits like this? So if you can just give us your thoughts on the whole package.
Yeah, I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect for George Peros and the Department of Player Safety and what they're trying to accomplish and what George has tried to move forward in the league. I think they dealt with it in the manner that they felt they needed to. It's unfortunate that Brandon's out and the residual of it. Outside of that, I don't have much comment. Tom Wilson's a unique player, but I'm not in this business. We don't get to comment on players on the other side of it. You just wish for player safety, and ultimately, I think Bergie spoke best about it.
You satisfied with 7 games?
Yeah, again, it's not about a satisfaction level. That's an incredibly difficult job that player safety has to do, and I respect George and how he goes about it. I've dealt with him on both sides of it, as we've had players go through it, and you argue, when your players on the carpet in the manner and respectful manner that you see fit, and accept the process and respect the process, and there's no different in this regard being on the other side.